Riding a fine line between video game and sheer artistry, Overwatch exploded onto the esports scene in 2016 with its playful nature and competitive gameplay. Featuring a cast of unique characters, the game is played such that 2 teams of 6 players fight in objective-based game modes to determine the superior team. Since its release, Overwatch has transcended from a typical esport into a much more structured environment in 2018 by franchising its teams, much like traditional sports, while still having separate divisions, leaving some fans a bit confused about just how an entire season plays out. Let's take a look at what you need to know about Overwatch's divisions and try to clear up how they work from a very high level. To understand Overwatch, you need to understand its competitive structure: Open Division, Contenders, Overwatch League, and the Overwatch World Cup. Starting with Open Division is the Blizzard-run league open to all players who can climb their way to Masters or higher in competitive play. During a relegation tournament called Trials, the top 4 teams of the season in the Open Division get to take on the bottom 4 teams of the previous season's Contenders Division. The top 4 teams of the Trials then move on to the current season's Contenders Division. Moving on to Contenders, this is essentially your semi-pro or minor league division played out as a high-level tournament series. Contenders is the proving grounds where the best up-and-comers can make a name for themselves and potentially get signed to official Overwatch League teams. Next comes Overwatch League. Commonly referred to as OWL, Overwatch League is designed similarly to traditional sports franchises, where there are a set number of slots available for teams. Franchise owners must meet strict guidelines, and if a spot is available, can buy their way in and have their team established in the league. Overwatch League is played like any other traditional sports league, where there are games played throughout the season, playoffs, and finally, the grand finals. The preseason begins in December. Stage 1 runs from January through February, Stage 2, February through March, Stage 3, April through May, Stage 4, May through June, then the playoffs and grand finals take place in July. Overwatch League players are signed into contracts, just like any other sports player, but not every player is necessarily on their team's active roster, also filling roles as training partners and coaches. In the 2018 Overwatch League roster, there were 12 teams in total that played in the Atlantic and Pacific divisions, and in the upcoming 2019 roster, there are an additional 8 teams being brought in for a total roster of 20 teams. Lastly is Overwatch World Cup, which pits countries against each other to determine who is the strongest Overwatch nation. In 2018, there were 24 qualified nations competing, and they were split into 4 qualifiers with 6 teams competing in each. The Overwatch World Cup qualifiers begin in August and end in September. The top 2 teams from each qualifier, 8 teams in total, move on to compete on the world stage at BlizzCon in November, where the winner of the finals gets recognized as the top Overwatch nation. It's a lot to take in, but hopefully you now have a little bit better of an understanding of how competitive Overwatch works. If not, well, you can still have fun playing the game, right? Is there an esports league you think is just way too complicated to follow? Let us know in the comments below. Who knows, you might find us explaining that league next.